This monster says This monster says ah. This monster says t. This monster says p. This monster says I. This monster says So yesterday I was just showing you how to use the monster routine to get started, and just explaining, if you are a member, which you can join on speechsoundpics.com, so it's 12 months, $145 for the 12 months for access to the support group, planning, resources not available to anyone else, or $185 a year, and you get a whole set of the spelling clouds to go on walls. So that's every single speech sound of English, and every choice, showing visually every choice for every phoneme. We've also got it with the monsters and the phonetic symbols, so that especially people who teach phonetics in second language countries, English second language countries, they will recognize those phonetic symbols. They're really important because it's just a generic, it's a representation. Oops, there you go. So it's a representation of the speech sound. So that means it's an A. It doesn't tell us which representation of A. It doesn't say it's an A or an I or an AI. It says this is just A. That's monster A. So if you pay the $185, then as I say, you get the whole set. So that's 67 clouds. So this is the monster routine, and this is what you can print off if you're a member and you're just waiting for your hard copy resources. So here's the set of monsters. So these are great if you're trying to learn the IPA, because they obviously give you the phonetic symbols. There's the schwa, there's Mrs. Denton's card. She'll understand what I mean. So here's the card. So every single speech sound of English. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just replace these ones that I printed off the members area whilst I was waiting. And I'm just going to replace it with the proper cards. Look at me, needing to be so organised. I just want to put them in the right order still. So let's put the correct ones. So we've got here. Now the children don't really look at that. Now I know that looks like it's an S, but actually, and that's what's a little bit confusing when you first start, that is actually just, it's not an S, it is an S, but that really means is it's just a generic symbol for S. And yes, S happens to be like that, but I do wish that the phonetic symbols, whoever did the IPA, I do wish that they would actually have done symbols that actually have no link. They don't look like letters of the alphabet, because this represents a speech sound, and a speech sound doesn't look like anything until you put it down on paper in a word. You know, when you've got a speech sound like when you've got a speech sound like we don't know what it looks like. We don't know what the representation is. That's why we call it a picture of the speech sound. So what's the picture of the speech sound? Whoops, I need a cameraman. What's the picture of the speech sound? We don't know what it's going to look like until we see it in a word. If we see the word gnat, we know that the representation for is a GN. And no, there's nothing silent. That GN represents the There's nothing long, short. That's just a way that people try to make sense of the written code. But in the way of doing it, and a lot of phonics, they really confused a lot of people. So anyway, so we've got our hard copy cards. Now, you'll have noticed we've got some wildcard Miss Emma's. And that's because you can do all sorts with this. So you do the monster routine, but let's say I got myself a rubber. So let's say I did this with the child. So I said, oh, here's a word. The word is it knits. It knits. Play it. It knits. It knits, because knits is a really hard one to hear those phonemes. It knits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of them. I'm going to put the monsters on and you've got to tell me which one's missing. Here we go. So this might be at the beginning when they're not quite so confident. And so you're giving them quite a lot of information and they're just going to fit in some more. So look, I might give it to them like this. It, s. So what's missing? Which monster is missing? And then they've got to put it in. They've got to find the it. So they've got to keep segmenting. So they're practicing those phonemic awareness skills. It. So we've got to change the Miss Emma wild card for the t, it, snit. So at the beginning, when they perhaps might not be able to do the whole thing, just give them one to put in. Another thing that you might do, you might just give it to them like this, and they've got to think, well, what could it be? So they'll go t, a, oh, what could that be? T, as, tas, no, that's not a word. So they can just work out what could it be. And then when they've thought, like supposing they thought, oh, tap, it could be tap. Okay, we'll change it for the p. Then you might think about, okay, what's the picture for t? What's the picture for a? What's the picture for p? The picture for t in this word, the picture for a in this word, the picture for p in this word. There's all sorts of things that you can do using the wildcard and using the monsters, either with or without phonics. You don't have to use the letters, you don't have to use the phonics, especially if you've got a child who's got poor articulation of speech sounds and or phonemic awareness, because this really helps, because every time you're articulating those individual speech sounds, and if you get rid of the distraction of phonics, we're just focusing on t, ap, tap, we're just focusing on the articulation of those phonemes and blending.
If you're on the Gold Coast in October in Term 4, this is 2017, please do join me. It's a hands-on monster mapping workshop. You actually do this with me to see how effective it is. It'll make you think as well, because we won't just use the green level sound picks. We're not just going to use Sapin. And hopefully I'll have a preschool child that I can work with and you can watch. I've also incorporated the monsters into the SSP Linguistic Phonics lessons that the children watch, and they're code mapped high frequency words. So that's the high frequency graphemes that they need to know to be able to decode with fluency and comprehension. We also use them, so it's not just a case of recognising them, we actually use them. But also over 400 high frequency words that may not, well, that don't follow the, that don't use the high frequency phonics. So if you think about the word was, well, the high frequency phonics, if it was to follow that, would be W-O-Z, and it's not. So we need the children to see that yes, there are a lot of words that can be easily decoded and encoded using high frequency sound picks, but there are an awful lot of words that aren't. So let's look at those as well. Anyway, I hope that's been useful. Please follow me on the Facebook page, Speech Sound Picks, and I'm creating a new channel that's just for monster mapping, so it's easy to see exactly what to do at home and in the classroom. Let's keep it really simple and make sure that every single session is short, fast and fun.